Remember how we talked about flipping the script on how we spend?
But every pay later is a bet you're making against yourself and a decision you're taking away from your future self.
Well, now we're flipping the script on how we track it, and we're doing it in more languages and currencies, just in time for your New Year's resolutions. This is Rich Aesthetic, and I'm Richard, and this video is on the huge 2.0 update to my personal finances Apple numbers spreadsheet. All right, so the problems with the first version were it was English only, obviously. The main currency couldn't be changed without breaking everything, and the secondary currency was unnecessarily limited. Oh, and it was hard to see your, actual spending in categories in an easy way for like recent months.
You suck!
Well, in version 2.0, that is now all fixed. The main features are language support, bi-directional currency switching for all of the currencies that Apple Numbers supports, and there's a new table that shows you your recent spending in those categories. So let's jump into the specifics. By the way, before we continue, if you're liking the video, consider liking it. And if you really like what I'm doing with the channel, consider doing a super thanks to show that you support the channel. All right, let's jump into the specifics. Main feature number one is language support. So let me go into those languages. So you have English, of course. Then you have German. Then you have Chinese, simplified and traditional. You've got Spanish. You've got French. You've got Japanese. You've got Korean. You've got Arabic. And you've got Hindi. Like, what? It's crazy. And it's all supported with a single table in the dictionary sheet. And if you know Apple numbers and a light bit of English, you can edit that table and add another language should you want to. And it should automatically, once you've chosen the language on the instruction sheet, be translated to whatever you input into that language's column. I mean, crazy. All right, feature number two are the bi-directional currency switching. So both the main currency and the secondary currency can be changed. Again, all the currencies that Apple Numbers supports. So let's jump into that list because, man, it's a doozy. First up, you have Australian dollar, Canadian dollar, Hong Kong dollar, Singapore dollar, New Taiwan dollar, US dollar. Then you have the euro, the Swiss franc, the Swedish krona, the Danish krone, the Norwegian krone. Then you have the Mexican peso, British pound. What is that? Brazilian real, Indian rupee, South Korean won, Japanese yen, Chinese yuan, Indonesian rupiah, Russian ruble, Turkish lira, Thai baht, Polish zloty, South African rand, Argentine peso, Saudi real, United Arab Emirates dirham, Egyptian pound, Croatian kuna, Czech koruna, Israeli new shekel, Hungarian forint, Romanian leu, Ukrainian hryvnia, Vietnamese dong, and Malaysian ringgit. I read that a few times. I still can't pronounce everything correctly, so I'm sorry if I butchered your currency's name. There's a couple other small features you'll come across. The instruction sheet has been, rewritten a little, redesigned a little bit. I'm not going to deal with that besides the first time, of course. Secondarily, in the dashboard, the accounts now have an emoji flag for the currency that account is in. Nice little design touch. And finally, there's a more efficient history sheet. You're still going to want to snapshot the results after some time, but in general, those formulas seem to be working a lot more quickly now. But I did mention that third feature on being able to see your spending in some categories a little bit more easily. So on the dashboard to the right, there's this new table, shows you your upcoming expense estimation, categories, drop-down pickers, super easy to use and super easy to see what you've been spending in categories that you want to track more closely. If you want the ins and outs for how this sheet works, I would recommend checking out video 1 in the playlist. Link is in the description. Link's also popping up somewhere here. It still largely functions in the same way, still has the shortcut data input, all that. You might have to tweak some categories, but it should be easy enough to do that. And I'll have a video on showing how to import your data from version 1 if you've been using it into this. Long story short, just copy all of your transactions into this transactions table, and then on your credit score history sheet, copy your credit scores if you've been tracking that into the credit score history sheet here, and everything should work just as it did before. I'll have a video out on that soon. Let's look at how to get started with the new features specifically. So the main thing on the instruction sheet is that there's now a language drop-down picker. You're going to want to set the language you want. Once you've set it, you can change it, but once you start inputting data, it's not going to work like if you're bilingual. The history sheet only works with one set of table headers at a time. So if you're using it in English and your categories in the transactions table are in English, well, your history table needs to be in English as well for that to work. And that's true for all of the languages. Now, the one change to the shortcut is on the first run, it will ask you what language you want to use. You should set this to the same language that the sheet is in. Again, it will not work if you're like bilingual and you want to use both languages. I haven't set the sheet up for that, and I don't really plan to unless for whatever reason everybody wants that. To change the currencies, again, as before, this is on the instruction sheet. The only difference is now you can change both the main and secondary currencies, and all of the currencies that I mentioned before are available as a main and secondary currency. The point of setting the currencies here is pretty much just visual. So if you want to see all of your currencies in USD, you can, even if you don't have any USD based accounts. It just means that like on the dashboard specifically, everything will be in USD showing you, your account values of the main and then whatever the secondary value is, or the secondary currency is as the secondary value. Lastly, the upcoming expense table is off to the right of the dashboard. So do a two-finger swipe to scroll on over there. And there's just some drop-down pickers on the top. Now, unfortunately, Apple Numbers doesn't have a way to dynamically, insert what you want in a drop-down picker. So it's hard set in the editor. So even if you change the languages, you'll see the categories, but not in the drop-down pickers. The nice thing is, as soon as you change the category selection in the drop-down picker in English, you'll see the translation just below that, so it should work pretty fast. But again, it's an editable file. You could just change the language in the drop-down picker. And also you might have to edit the drop-down picker anyways, because I haven't included all of the categories. There's just too many categories to do that. I've inserted the ones that I care about, and hopefully that covers most of you out there. I am really looking forward to Apple finally updating Apple Numbers for Liquid Glass and macOS Tahoe. Not sure if that's even going to happen at this point with Alan Dye being out the door. But my fingers are crossed, and I do hope at some point these drop-down pickers could be powered by a dynamic formula. Now, there's a couple of disclosures I'd like to say. First up, I'm not a financial expert, although I doubt anyone honest would say that tracking your finances is a bad habit. Either way, seek advice from a professional. Regarding languages, I've only verified the German and the Chinese simplified and traditional translations with the help of my mother as well as my best friend. So if any of the other languages are like severely messed up, I do apologize. Leave a comment down below if you want to, help out with that. And if it's just like a small thing, remember, like you can just change the translation on that dictionary table and it'll be reflected wherever that is being used. A big one that you're going to see visually, and you might think the sheet is broken, are that with the way automatic data is recognized, sometimes it'll be formatted strangely. So main and secondary currency absolutely supported this. I tried this with a bunch of different currencies being converted from, type to type. But you'll see, especially in the history table and on the dashboard sheet, like sometimes the currency will be formatted strangely. So you can see here, for example, it correctly recognizes this data as being currency and it's in the Chinese yuan format. But there are like way too many decimal points. There's nothing I can do about this because, as you'll see now, if I change the number of decimal points, it's no longer automatic, as in the data recognized is no longer automatic. It's now hard set as currency. And there's no hard setting, oh, this is going to be currency, but the currency type could be automatically detected. No, if you set the currency it's set to is now hard set, which is why I'm not going to set it as currency for you, because if I just make everything USD, but then you set it up to be Chinese yuan, you're still going to see USD everywhere that I hard set it. So I just think it's easier you use it in the automatic way, and then as you use it, you can slowly hard set all of the areas, all of the cells and tables to use the currency that you want. Then that'll get rid of the visual weirdness that you see. Just know if you do that, it would be a hard set change. And if you ever change the main currency in the future, you would have to go and now manually change the currencies again. I don't think that's something that would happen often though. Besides that though, the sheet should work really nicely for you. How to get this sheet. Just like the first version, it's going to be distributed on PayHip. This version has a lot of quality of life improvements. So I'm going to leave the first version on PayHip with the pay what you want pricing. But if you want this one, It's going to be on PayHip as well. Also pay what you want, but just until the end of January 2026, at which point I'm going to bump up the price to $5 or pay what you want. Now, that is unless I hit my goal, which is 1,000 subscribers by the end of the year, which I think we might be able to do, as well as 3,250 watch hours, which also I think we might be able to do. So if you want the deal to continue, help me by sharing the video, liking it, getting it out to as many people as possible. Now, if we reach that goal, I'm going to leave the pay what you want pricing until Dub 2026, which is sometime in June usually. My 2026 resolution is to, of course, continue growing. I've got some updates in store for this sheet, by the way, but also to hit 4,000 watch hours, which we are so close to. Again, thank you to all of you for supporting the channel. If you're still watching at this point, drop that eyeball emoji down in the comments below. I've been having a lot of fun working on this sheet, and I have, like I said, some updates in store. There's a 2.1 update that I'm already working on, which is to fully translate the shortcut. Currently, it just is translated to the extent that it's needed to power the history table. But then I've got this 3.0 update that I'm also cooking on, so I'm excited to get that out to you. It's kind of relying on Apple. I really, really hope that Apple numbers get some liquid glass touch up and style choices. That would be sick. But I don't know. In the grand scheme of things, I hope this sheet helps you with your financial goals. I've not perfected my finances. However, I'm getting there. And I do hope that by the end of 2026, all the big purchases I make are with a vault that I completed. That's all I got for this one. Merry Christmas and happy holidays to all of you. Happy New Year as well. And until the next one, we're just setting out. Peace.